Welcome to Business Notes, where entrepreneurs tell their stories of struggles, strategies, and successes. I'm your host, Diane Bogino. I'm pleased to welcome to the show today Candice Gottlieb-Clark. Candice is a renowned business advisor, coach, conflict management specialist, and the founder of Dynamic Team Solutions. She and her team of experts support organizations and leaders across all industries to raise their business's functionality, teamwork, productivity, and performance. Candice has a master's degree in counseling and is a board-certified executive coach. She is a sought-after speaker and writer and the author of the best-selling leadership book, Find, Fix, Fill Your Leadership Gap. Now, here's Candice to tell us how she can help your organization be more productive, fix your leadership gap, and about her book. Candice, thank you for being on the show today, and thank you for spending time with us.
Well, Diane, thank you so much for having me. It's a delight to be here with you, and I also super appreciate you allowing me to join you on your podcast.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. We'll talk about your book in a minute, and I'm excited to talk about that. But first, tell our audience about your company.
Dynamic Team Solutions, I formed, its initial beginning was about 20 years ago. And I formed it out of a passion to create a place in the world where work was no longer something that you just kind of drudged your way through, but was something that you enjoyed. Because so often we go into our world of work with a passion for our career, what it is we want to do, what gifts we want to bring out in the world and show to the world and offer to the world. And yet then we may not like the people we work with. Right. Our motto is, it's great when your employees want to come to work, but it becomes dynamic when they want to work with each other. And so Dynamic Team Solutions is about creating that place in the world of work where people actually have positive workplace relations, and not through those, kind of silly trust exercises, but through genuine building of relationships, building of trust and collaboration, and all of those things that make people genuinely feel inspired and excited to work with the people that they must collaborate with in that workplace setting.
Okay, I'm going to send you to every company in America. Okay.
If only every one of them had the awareness that things can be better than they are.
That's right.
That's the hurdle.
And you hit the nail on the head. That's an excellent way to get that accomplished too. And how did you get involved in the niche area of consulting? It's quite a leap from what you were doing.
My background is in counseling and psychology, and I was doing different things in that realm, including working with ADHD treatment and working with abused kids and other things like that were real passion projects as well, but were very, well, to put it lightly, depressing. It was really, and it didn't actually call to my original passion, which was to improve the world of work, and that came from seeing my own family of origin and where things could be challenging for my mom in particular, that, she was the breadwinner, but she was also kept in jobs that she was very unhappy, and that energy came home. So, how I got into this was actually through the field of mediation. I happened to stumble across an ad, and this is such a funny thing to think back on. And I think now, it being 20 years in the past, people are less apt to think it's hilarious than they were when it was 7 years in the past. But back in the year 2000, and I was unhappy with the work I was doing and felt like I needed something different, I opened up the Los Angeles Times want ads to look for opportunities, and happened to stumble across an ad for a family court mediator, and they needed a counseling degree. And I thought, well, that certainly connected with the work I did in the past. And what is this thing with mediation in it? That sounds interesting. And I called a couple of friends of mine who are attorneys, and I said, what is this? I thought it was legal. And they said, no, but you know what? This sounds like it would be up your alley. You should really pursue it. So not knowing much about mediation, I opened up the yellow pages. This is pre-Google. And
yes, but I know this stuff. So.
We use, right? And I called every mediator in the yellow pages to ask questions. And it was easy to do in Los Angeles. That was about 7 or 9 entries. That's it. It probably is now about 7 pages if we still got a yellow pages. There are thousands of people that now have this profession. But at the time, it was very slim. And there was like 7 entries. I called each one of them. I found out about it. And this all began on, I think, a Monday morning. And by Friday, I was signed up to take a mediation course that started the following Monday. And by the time I was done with that mediation course, which they told me on and on, you'll never get paid work in this field. And I said, I don't care. I'm so passionate about this. This is where I belong. I feel it. I will do it on the side. I will volunteer and I'll get paid work elsewhere. And by the end of that week, well, it was really a week after, because I was in that training all week, I had not 1, but 2 offers for paid work in that field. One of them being by the company who trained me, which was part of the Los Angeles County Bar Association. I went in to volunteer and they came back and said, what are your salary requirements? And I said, I'm confused. I'm confused. What is this? But I mean, my world literally changed over the course of just a few weeks from stumbling upon that. And I began in the world of mediation there. And I quickly saw where what I was doing initially, which was working with schools and running a peer mediation program, I very quickly saw that the issues these middle schoolers were experiencing were very similar to the world of work. It's the same issues, the same emotional things that we experience that cause us to feel misunderstood, and which lead to conflict. Mm-hmm. And seeing that, it gave me this concept of this is exactly what the world of work needs. And I transitioned that into a business consulting platform that then grew its own legs and splintered beyond mediation to executive coaching and leadership coaching for those people who just on their own have a lack of clarity of how to behave, maybe I might say, or communicate so that they don't create that conflict, but also team dynamics, because it isn't always a one-on-one friction. It can be a whole group of people that are disrupted because of something that's not working well.
That's true.
That was a very long-winded answer.
No, and I was right there with you. And obviously you are a woman of action and a person that can make a decision, and that is what successful people need, and you are successful. But what do you wish most companies knew about their employees or their leaders?
I think what I wish they knew is that people are genuinely trying their best. And that doesn't mean that they're putting their best work out there. Sometimes they need some support to be able to do that. But one thing that I have learned in the work I did, and I primarily end up connecting with leaders because they're the ones that will bring me in. They're the ones that can make the choice that a consultant's needed to resolve issues in the workplace or to help collaboration be stronger or better. And I learned early on to ask them, and this is a little bit of a story, when I'd come in and say, if I learned that these issues I'm here to resolve, if I learn they trail back to you, they stem back toward you or another leader, how would you like me to let you know? And I did that because it was so deeply uncomfortable to have to tell them when I hadn't prepared them for that. So once I did that, and I got across the board the same kind of a response, this self-deprecating laugh, this acknowledgement. Yes, of course, it's going to stem back to me somewhere. Just tell me, I'm good to know. And every now and again, I'd get mock aghast, oh, no, it couldn't possibly be, right? So they were all open to the idea that they could do better, that they could improve if they just had that insight, that information that they didn't have. That is true for everybody, not just leaders. And genuinely people, if you give them the benefit of the doubt that whatever problems they're causing, it's not created by any willfulness, and well, once in a while it is, but there's reasons for that too. It's usually that they feel that somebody's done something to them, right? So it's a retribution. But most of the time, when people are just not performing as they need to be, or engaging in behaviors that are problematic, it's just because they don't know that that's what they're doing. And if you are open to telling them, this is what's supposed to happen with performance appraisals and feedback and all of that. But too often we're given to thinking it's something they know and they're willfully doing. And I have a very strong philosophy of vindicate, don't villainize. And as I know you've read the book, or at least a lot of the book, which I recently had written. That's something I talk about a lot in the book, but it's because it's so important that we realize people are really, if you give people the benefit of the doubt and you understand that they weren't doing this to create a problem, and you're just trying to share helpful information so they can do better, they're excited to do better. And I learned that from leaders. If leaders feel that way about themselves and they're 40 years into their career some of the time, we can all feel that way about ourselves. We can be better. Just come to me with that idea of how to do better from a place of not thinking I'm a villain, but trying to find the good in what I was trying to accomplish.
Mhm. That's an excellent question to ask, and people can do that internally as well. And I'm going to steal that too. So just be
Please
warned.
do. Let's help the world be better.
Right. Yes. What inspired you to write that book, Find, Fix, and Fill Your Leadership Gap?
You know, I was inspired by leaders just like what I described when they would say that. And I was also inspired by some of my clients who we would just have these conversations, which I do with my clients once a month, as a check-in. And that's outside of the project itself that I'm working on, but just to see if there weren't things I could help with by just having a conversation with them and learn what's happening. And they might just spill about some other issue going on, or how they're handling the current issue that I'm working with them on, and helping them to find better ways to do that. And they would say, can't you just write this down for me in a book? I just need something. I need a guide because I can't carry you in my pocket. I need a way to get this information when I need it. I can't just wait. And you know, that was just such a sweet thing for them to tell me, but it also told me that what comes very naturally for me is not something that's a natural instinct or thought for other people, and that it's really of great value to people. So for years I've been saying, okay, I'll write a book, but it took a long time to not only make space in my life for it, but to have enough energy for it. And this book, it took me 3 years, and it isn't because that the thoughts took a long time to come up with. It's creating it in a way that is so purposeful that people can really learn from it. And it's not just me throwing a bunch of my blog posts into one book, which I've been recommended to do just to get some thoughts out into the world. But I felt like there was something better I could do that would make it of greater value. And so it took some time, but I got it out, and I'm very proud. It's like one of the babies I birthed now, right?
Sure.
It's the longest incubation ever, but.
Well, what I like about your book is that the scenarios you talk about, we do see them every day in business, so they're real. You're able to target right down to the problem, and you bring meaningful, purposeful, and solutions that can be implemented. So I encourage people to read it, definitely.
Oh, you flatter me. Thank you very much.
I only tell the truth here. So tell me what excites you about your business today.
What really excites me is, you know, the fact that I have the book gives me just greater reach. And one thing that's exciting is doing keynotes, which allows me to be in front of leaders more often in a large setting. Very often I have that one-on-one with leaders, right? I get a lot of that. But being in a position where I'm either meeting with organizational leaders or executive leadership and being able to teach them some of what the book offers. And I genuinely want, you know, even if granted, I do want to be able to have my business be successful, but even if they don't hire me, even if they're not paying anything to be there, they're just learning and they don't choose to hire me or my organization and the consultant team I support within that, even if they just take that, I like knowing that the world is a better place because they're going to take these concepts, they're going to be a better leader and bring better teams. And then, you know, going back to my original reason for wanting this, making the workplace better. So what I really want is the, you know, the very grandiose, let's make the world a better place, right? On the smaller scale, I would love to just be able to support more clients by having that greater reach and just letting them know we exist, letting them know we are able to make the difference when it feels hopeless, when it feels like, hey, the dysfunction is just what we have. It's just what we have to deal with, or the silos, or that one, you know, very difficult person who's so valuable to the company, perhaps even the leader of the company. And yet, as valuable as they are, they also create problems or friction. And I'm not here to say that the only time to call us in is when there's dysfunction, but that's usually the first time people call us in. And then they say, proactively, we'd like to be looking at how to improve our culture, or we realize our leaders don't have the ability to see and get the feedback that our directors and worker level people can get. And so we want to give them insight. We want to proactively think about this and how we can make that change. We love doing those too. Those are exciting because we take good and make it better. But the thing that I really love is just being able to bring improvement, to bring real change, you know, in a very tangible way that people can improve the ways that they live their lives because their work life is so much more healthy. And interestingly, in the hybrid work that we have today, it's even more valuable because people are fragmented and fractured, and it leads to people, if they're not connected to their workplace, being very transactional in the work they're doing. And that leads to resignations if things aren't perfect.
Right. And you make a good point that people call you in when there's trouble, but people can talk to consultants even when things are going smoothly. Look down the road. How do we maintain this? What do we need to do going forward, looking down, the trends and things that might change? So excellent point.
And even how to be better than we are. I know you work with leaders as well. You don't have to be broken to need a little bit of support, right? We don't wait till our car's broken down on the side of the road to get some tune-ups. We maintain it on a regular basis.
That's an excellent point. What advice would you give someone who might be aspiring to move into an executive position?
So if they're aspiring to, I would say recognize that what I have found is most managers and those that are in that middle management thing, as they're stepping up into a leadership role, they are not usually given education from within. Their company will provide maybe some internal mentoring, but they don't really provide training. And there have been a lot of studies done that show that most leadership and executive training starts when people are in their mid to late 40s, which is not necessarily the first time they're leading people. It's usually far later. It's 10 to 15 years into their leadership that they get some training in it, because then they're valuable enough that the company will invest. It's sort of backward. I would say look beyond your own experiences for ways to improve. I think most people are self-reflective and they are willing to say, hey, I could be better. And so they'll get some books, they'll watch the people they like, and then they will also guide it based on what they themselves like. And I would say that the leadership stories I tell in the book are all leaders who guided things with the best of intentions. They were absolutely trying to do as well as they could for their teams, but they didn't have any external support, anyone from the outside helping to channel that. So I would say having a coach that can really support you is really key, because that's giving you that one-on-one support. I do recommend books, mine being one of them, but that on its own is not enough. You need someone to hold up a mirror to you and let you know what is and isn't working. And every coach isn't right for every leader. The coach that you choose might not be the right one the first time. You might have to try a second person that's better at helping you to examine yourself. It's just like finding a good therapist. Everybody is not equally capable of helping everyone else. And so finding that person that's your person may take a couple tries, but don't give up because it hasn't helped yet. Read books. I recommend mine. It's a great starting point. It's a great middle point. It's a great ending point for improving your leadership. But do look beyond what you already know and what you already have access to help you grow.
Right. Are there specific areas of training that you could recommend to people to help them build a better career?
I think one of the key things is what's historically been called the soft skills area. Things that help to build emotional intelligence, I think, is the most key piece that is missing. Most people have spent their careers learning how to do their job, how to build a better widget, how to, create better designs, or, if they're in architecture, or they continue to learn new medical things if they're in that field. I mean, they're always learning their own industry, and yet they spend little time developing their emotional intelligence, their ability to see the world through a different lens. And I think that's the most important thing, where more attention and growth is needed.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think understanding people, or the ability to understand people, makes the person a better leader?
Yes to infinity, right?
Yeah, right.
Absolutely, because as a leader, and this is something I break down in my book, that there's 3 pillars that make up good leadership, and I liken it to a 3-legged stool, those being trust, role clarity, and conflict management. And that if any of those 3 pillars is weak, the entire thing crumbles. And trust goes so far beyond honesty. Honesty is the lowest rung on the trust ladder. It is so basic, and people think that's the only rung. It's the lowest rung. But one of the other rungs is role clarity. And by that, I mean really understanding what your role as a leader is, which answers to your question. Your role as a leader is no longer to do the job or to even prove you know how to do the job better than the people you're leading. It is to remove the barriers to other people being effective, to create the correct supports and remove the hurdles. And most leaders don't recognize that's their role. That is probably the most important thing they need to do, short of looking down the line and seeing what's coming. Okay, you're sort of got the periscope. You can see what's coming. You're looking. So you're going to get your team ready by providing the supports and removing the hurdles. If you're not doing those three things, you are failing as a leader. And I think too many leaders think it's to do the job well and to mentor others to do it the way you did it. And I'm so sorry to say that is not it. So any leaders listening, I do not believe that is what it will make you successful or will make your team successful.
Excellent. Your book is timely. It is needed today more than ever. So I don't know if you planned it this way to launch it at this time, but I do encourage people to read it, and you are right on in your points on leadership. And thank you so much for bringing your wisdom to us today. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Diana. It's just been such a pleasure talking with you. I hope we can do this again.
Yes, Candice, that would be great. Thanks. Thank you for watching Business Notes. We've been speaking with Candice Gottlieb-Clark, advisor, coach, conflict management specialist, and the founder of Dynamic Team Solutions. I'm your host, Diane Bogino, bringing you business ideas you can bank on.